Okay, let's dive right in. Today, we're taking a magnifying glass to Deuteronomy chapter 22. It's an ancient text, sure, but it's literally the blueprint for how to build a brand new, functioning society from the ground up.
Welcome to the Pardes channel. Today, we explain Deuteronomy chapter 22 in a clear and simple way, step by step.
Here's how we're going to tackle this today. First, context and introduction. Second, property and brotherhood. Third, boundaries and nature. Fourth, family and morality. Fifth, practical life lessons. And finally, a quick chapter recap.
Section 1. Context and Introduction. Preparing for the Promised Land. Let's just set the stage really quickly.
So, where exactly are we in the story? Well, Moses is delivering his farewell address. He isn't crossing the Jordan River into the Promised Land with the Israelites, so he's giving them their final, absolutely crucial instructions. He's laying down the specific statutes and ordinances they need to not just survive, but to actually thrive and build a just, holy community.
Moving into Section 2, Property and Brotherhood, verses 1 to 4.
Now, these first 4 verses are all about active empathy. The text explicitly commands that you cannot just look the other way if your neighbor loses something. If you see your brother's ox or sheep wandering off, verse 1 says you have to bring it back. And verse 2 gets super practical. If you don't know who the owner is or they live far away, you literally have to take that animal into your own home and feed it until they come looking for it. Verse 3 applies this to a stray donkey, a dropped cloak, just anything your neighbor loses. This is the law of Hashavat Avada, returning lost property. And the text hits you with this powerful repeated phrase, do not ignore it. You cannot hide yourself. Then in verse 4, it escalates. If you see a neighbor's donkey or ox collapsed under its cargo on the road, you are legally obligated to get your hands dirty and help lift that heavy animal back to its feet. It's a proactive, roll-up-your-sleeves kind of brotherhood.
Section 3, Boundaries in Nature, verses 5 to 12.
Okay, so these verses establish some really strict boundaries, crossing gender, agriculture, animal welfare, and even what clothes you wear. The goal? Maintaining the natural order. Verse 5 starts by prohibiting cross-dressing. Women shouldn't wear men's clothes, and vice versa. Then, out in nature, verses 6 and 7 say if you find a bird's nest and want the eggs or the chicks, you absolutely have to let the mother bird go free. You can't take the mother with her young, and doing this is actually tied to a promise of living a long, good life. Next up, agriculture. Verse 9 tells us not to plant 2 different kinds of seeds in a vineyard, otherwise the whole crop becomes defiled. Verse 10, you can't plow a field with an ox and a donkey yoked together. And if you think about it, that's just basic animal welfare. They have totally different strengths and walking paces. Yoking them together would be unnatural and cruel. Finally, verse 11 applies the separation to textiles. You can't wear clothes woven with a mix of wool and linen. In Hebrew, this forbidden mixture is called kilaim.
Verse 8 gives us a brilliant, totally practical safety law. In ancient times, flat roofs were basically your outdoor living room. So, the law commands that when you build a new house, you have to build a low protective wall, a ma'akeh, or parapet, around the edge of the roof. If you don't do this and someone accidentally falls off, you bring the guilt of bloodshed onto your own house. It's a direct mandate forcing you to proactively care for the physical safety of anyone stepping onto your property.
Capping off these boundary laws, verse 12 mandates adding twisted cords to the 4 corners of your garments. These are known as gedalim or tzitzit. It's essentially a wearable, tactile boundary, a constant physical reminder of the laws and the unique identity of the person wearing them.
Section 4, Family and Morality, verses 13 to 30. Now we are shifting into some very serious judicial territory.
Verses 13 through 21 deal with a strict judicial process for handling accusations of marital fraud. It's designed to protect falsely accused women while severely punishing actual infidelity. Here's the scenario. A man marries a woman, decides he dislikes her, and publicly slanders her by claiming she wasn't a virgin on their wedding night. In this ancient society, that is a massive, life-ruining accusation. So the text says the girl's parents must bring physical proof of her virginity, the actual bedcloth from the wedding night, straight to the town elders at the city gate. If the elders see the proof and find the husband was lying, he gets hit with a huge fine of 100 shekels of silver given to the father, and the man loses the right to ever divorce her. But verses 20 and 21 state that if the accusation is true and there's no proof of virginity, the woman is brought to her father's door and stoned by the men of the town for committing a disgrace. Looking at verse 22, the text is completely impartial about adultery. Based entirely on the pushat, the plain, literal meaning of the text, it's a capital offense for everyone involved. If a man is caught sleeping with another man's wife, both the man and the woman are put to death to purge the evil from the community. Now,
Verses 23 to 27 give us a fascinating look at ancient legal logic, specifically how they distinguish between a mutual act and an assault. It all comes down to location and the ability to cry out for help. If a man and a betrothed virgin sleep together inside the city walls, both are stoned. Why? Verses 23 and 24 explain the presumption. In a crowded city, the girl could have screamed and someone would have heard her. Since she didn't, it's presumed consensual. But look at verses 25 through 27. If a man attacks a betrothed virgin out in the open country, only the man dies. The woman is entirely cleared of guilt. The law logically presumes she probably screamed her lungs out, but there was no one around to save her. The man is treated exactly like a murderer, and the woman is completely innocent.
Wrapping up the chapter, verses 28 and 29 address the assault of an unbetrothed virgin. The man is forced to pay a 50 shekel bride price to her father. He has to marry her because he violated her, and he can never, ever divorce her. Finally, verse 30 lays down a blunt, non-negotiable boundary against incest. A man is strictly forbidden from marrying his father's wife. Period. Section 5, Practical Life Lessons, Applying the Peshat. So, what are we supposed to actually take away from this literal reading today?
When you strip it all back, 3 enduring concepts really stand out. First, active empathy. That repeated phrase, "do not ignore it," means we can't just be passive bystanders. If a neighbor needs help, we step up. Second, respecting boundaries. Whether it's building a roof parapet to keep guests safe or letting a mother bird go, we are called to respect the natural order and actively protect life. And third, seeking justice. These judicial laws show a system trying to protect the vulnerable by demanding actual physical evidence over mere gossip or rumors.
Section 6, Chapter Recap, the structure of Deuteronomy 22. Let's do a quick review of how we got here.
We just walked through a really clear thematic progression. Verses 1 through 4 gave us the everyday property and brotherhood laws. Then verses 5 through 12 expanded our view to the natural world, focusing on agriculture, safety, and preventing unnatural mixtures. And finally, verses 13 through 30 tackled the heaviest stuff, the severe judicial laws protecting the family unit and dealing strictly with assault.
So, I'll leave you with this to think about. How do these ancient blueprints for a community challenge our modern ideas of responsibility? Are we building parapets to protect the vulnerable in our own lives today? When we see someone struggling, do we step in or do we just look the other way? Thank you for learning with us. If this helped you understand the chapter better, like, subscribe, and join us for the next chapter.